There is this very specific, almost dizzying type of vertigo.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Like, it happens when you step outside after a brutally long, stressful day, and you just happen to look up at a perfectly clear night sky.
Yeah, the sudden shock of scale.
Exactly. You've spent the last 10 hours trapped in the absolute urgency of, I don't know, a spreadsheet or a fight with a family member.
Or just the generalized ambient panic of modern life.
Yes, the ambient panic. Your heart rate is up, your shoulders are somewhere around your ears, and then you look up.
And everything changes.
Right, because for just a fraction of a second, the sheer crushing weight of all that black space and ancient light, it completely shatters the illusion that your Tuesday schedule actually matters.
It's terrifying, really.
It is. But paradoxically, it is the most profound relief you can feel.
Well, it's an involuntary physical recalibration.
Yeah.
I mean, the anxiety doesn't necessarily disappear, but the framework holding it completely collapses.
You are suddenly forced to encounter scale.
Right, you were forced out of your own head.
So that feeling, that sudden rushing relief when you encounter the vastness of the cosmos, or the silence of an abandoned building, or even just the staggering complexity of a single blade of grass, that is exactly what we are dissecting today.
It's such a massive topic.
It really is. So welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to completely tear down the artificial high-pressure environments we've built for ourselves.
And we're going to reevaluate what it means to be alive using a synthesis of astronomy, neuroscience, and natural philosophy.
Right, because we are going to figure out exactly how to harness that night sky relief and map it onto our daily lives. So if you've ever felt that, this is for you.
And what's crucial here is that we aren't just talking about poetic metaphors.
No, not at all.
We are looking at the literal, biological, and physical mechanisms of existence. Like, we're going to explore why insignificance is biologically comforting.
Which sounds completely backwards, but it's true.
Yeah, and why human decay is thermodynamically peaceful, and how the very machinery you use to comprehend the universe is actually just as vast as the universe itself.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand why our daily anxieties are essentially an optical illusion, we have to start with the most zoomed-out perspective possible.
The ultimate macro view.
Right. We have to talk about the physical parameters of the reality we are sitting in right now.
So to really get a grip on this, we have to look at the boundaries of the observable universe.
Okay, lay it on us.
The current cosmological consensus is that the observable universe is roughly 93 billion light years in diameter.
I want to stop right there because even that number, 93 billion, it's a trap.
How do you mean?
Well, people hear 93 billion and it just bounces off the brain. It's like a cartoon number.
Oh, sure. It's incomprehensible.
Right. Like light travels at roughly 186,000 miles per second.
Which is fast enough to lap the equator 7.5 times before you finish blinking.
Exactly. And moving at that incomprehensible speed, it would still take 93 billion years to cross the bubble of space we can see.
And here is the paradox that usually trips people up. The universe is only about 13.8 billion years old.
Right. So how can the observable universe be 93 billion light years across if light has only had 13.8 billion years to travel?
It's because space itself is expanding, and it has been expanding since the Big Bang.
Oh, right. The metric expansion.
Exactly. The objects that emitted light 13.8 billion years ago have been moving away from us as the literal fabric of the universe stretches.
So the space between galaxies is inflating like a balloon.
Yes. So when we look at the cosmic microwave background radiation, which is the edge of what we can see, we are looking at a boundary that is stretched to a diameter of 93 billion light years.
So we are sitting inside a 93 billion light year expanding bubble.
We are.
And to ground this, I mean, we inevitably have to come back to the Voyager 1 photograph.
Oh, of course, Carl Sagan's pale blue dot.
Right. It is the ultimate anchor for this concept.
It really is. Back in 1990, Voyager 1 was about 3.7 billion miles away from Earth. It was just leaving our planetary neighborhood.
And Sagan had to campaign aggressively to get NASA to turn the camera around, right?
It was a massive risk. Pointing the optics back toward the sun could have completely fried the sensors. But he insisted.
He knew they needed that perspective.
Exactly.
And the resulting image is almost, well, it's underwhelming at first glance.
It's mostly just static and glare.
Yeah, but caught in one of the scattered light rays is just a fraction of a pixel, a tiny pale blue speck.
And that speck is the entirety of human history.
Every empire that rose and fell.
Every philosophical breakthrough, every war, every single human being who has ever lived lived out their lives on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam.
It gives me chills just thinking about it. But, usually the immediate psychological reaction to that fact is existential dread.
Oh, for sure. The classic nihilistic spiral.
Right. People think, well, if we are just a microscopic speck in an unimaginably vast, cold void, then absolutely nothing I do matters. My life is pointless.
But the philosophical synthesis we're looking at today completely flips that script.
It really does. It argues that this insignificance is actually the ultimate psychological liberation.
It is a profoundly comforting realization if you actually follow the logic to its end.
How so?
Well, the dread comes from the ego. We are fundamentally wired by evolution and society to believe we are the center of the narrative.
We think we have to carry the weight of the world.
Exactly. We're conditioned to think everything depends on us. But when you truly confront the scale of the pale blue dot, you are violently relieved of that duty.
It's the ultimate permission slip to just exist.
Yes, it doesn't mean your problems aren't real.
Right. If you are terrified about a medical diagnosis or you can't pay your mortgage, that stress is highly acute. Your cortisol levels are spiking.
Absolutely. The cosmic scale places a container around that pain.
It contextualizes it.
Yeah.
It's like zooming all the way out on a digital map. Up close on the street view, the traffic jam on your commute feels like a claustrophobic nightmare.
Oh, you feel completely trapped.
Right. You're going to be late. It feels like the universe is actively conspiring against you. But if you pinch the screen and zoom out,
Past the city, past the continent.
right, past the hemisphere, that traffic jam becomes a microscopic cluster of metal on a spinning rock.
And the physical reality of the traffic hasn't changed. You were still stuck in it.
But your emotional attachment to it completely changes. The psychological grip it has on your identity shatters.
Because you shift from a state of artificial importance to a state of natural integration.
I love that phrase, natural integration.
But there is a crucial distinction to make here between cognitive knowing and somatic feeling.
Right, because hearing the number 93 billion is an intellectual exercise.
Exactly. It's a mathematical abstraction processed by your prefrontal cortex.
That's trivia. It doesn't actually change your heart rate.
Precisely. But when you walk outside and physically immerse yourself in a dark environment and look at the Milky Way stretching across the sky, you bypass the analytical brain entirely.
You just feel it.
You are engaging in a sensory, somatic realization of your scale.
The cold air, the depth of field, the faint photons hitting your retina, your nervous system processes that vastness directly.
You aren't doing math.
Yeah.
You're physically experiencing the reality of your own smallness.
You are bodily surrendering to it. And I think that idea of surrender is the perfect bridge to the next concept.
Oh, definitely.
Because if looking at the macro universe strips away our ego and leaves us with peace, what happens when we apply that same lens to things right here on Earth?
Things closer to home.
Right. Specifically, what happens when we look at places where human ambition has actively failed and crumbled?
The ruins.
Yes, because there is a very specific philosophy regarding ruins and desolation that ties perfectly into this.
The philosophy of the bare earth. When we look at abandoned buildings, overgrown fields, or decaying infrastructure, we are looking at the intersection of human ego and the laws of thermodynamics.
Now, I have to play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
I understand the romance of an ancient Roman ruin, but modern ruins, like a decaying shopping mall, an abandoned factory, a collapsed bridge.
The kind you see on those urban exploration videos.
Exactly. Culturally, we code these spaces as tragic. They represent economic failure, they represent job losses, bankruptcies, the death of a community.
So how is the decay of a town's infrastructure supposed to be peaceful?
Right. Why are we framing this as peaceful?
Because the tragedy you are describing is purely an attachment to human permanence.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
We view the collapse of a building as a failure because we operate under the delusion that human structures are supposed to last forever.
But physics dictates otherwise.
Exactly. The second law of thermodynamics states that the total entropy, which is the disorder of an isolated system, can never decrease over time.
Everything naturally moves from order to chaos.
Always. To build a building, to pave a road, to maintain a city, it requires a massive, continuous input of energy to artificially reverse entropy in a localized area.
Wow, I never thought of it like that.
Human existence, our cities, our careers, our physical bodies, it is all a frantic, unending, exhausting war against entropy.
We are constantly bailing water out of a leaking boat.
That's a great way to put it.
You paint the house, the paint peels, you pave the road, the ice cracks it, you pull the weeds, they grow back by Tuesday.
And entropy always wins in the end. So
Always.
when a building is abandoned, the energy input stops. The human war against nature ceases.
Okay, so what you are looking at when you see a roof caved in with vines growing through the concrete, it isn't a failure.
No. It is the system returning to equilibrium. It is the building surrendering to the natural cycle.
The artificial tension has been released.
Exactly. The pressure to maintain is just gone.
Wow. Okay, I see that. The melancholy we feel is just our own ego projecting onto the concrete. We are mourning the loss of our control.
Precisely. But if you strip the human ego out of the equation, what's left is simply the unstoppable, quiet power of the earth reclaiming its minerals.
Think about the wildlife exclusion zone around Chernobyl.
Oh, that's the perfect example.
It is the site of one of humanity's greatest technological catastrophes. And yet, devoid of human intervention, it has become one of the most thriving nature reserves in Europe.
Forests have completely swallowed the brutalist architecture. Endangered species are flourishing.
Right, without the relentless pressure of human maintenance, the true, resilient essence of life surfaces immediately.
That is such a powerful metaphor for our internal lives. Because we don't just maintain buildings.
Oh no, we are completely obsessed with maintaining ourselves.
The sheer amount of psychological energy we spend fighting entropy on a personal level is staggering.
We manage our careers, we curate our social media personas, we fight biological aging with serums and surgeries.
We are terrified of letting our own internal structures decay.
We are terrified of not projecting perfection.
Exactly. And seeing a physical ruin, a place where the maintenance simply stopped and the world didn't end, it gives our unconscious mind permission to rest.
It proves that letting go, allowing a part of your life to crumble, isn't an apocalypse, it's just a transition.
The moss still grows, the bugs still move in. Life continues, just in a different, unmanaged form.
It proves that your value isn't contingent on your structural integrity.
What a beautiful way to say it.
So we've looked at the vastness of the universe, and we've looked at the peaceful surrender of ruins. Both of these are about taking our hands off the steering wheel.
Right, letting go of control.
But what happens when we look at the active living world? What happens when human effort doesn't fight nature, but actually harmonizes with it?
That brings us to one of the most beautiful focal points in the deep dive today.
The biology of a swaying plant, like a field of rice.
This completely transitions us from the relief of insignificance into the profound reality of interconnectedness.
Because a single grain of rice swaying in a field is not an isolated object.
Not at all. It is the physical manifestation of an unimaginably complex, invisible web of relationships.
And we really need to dig into the biology here because it's not just a poetic idea of Mother Nature. It is hard science.
It really is.
Like, what does it actually take to grow one single grain of rice?
Well, it requires a symphony of biological and physical systems that frankly defy comprehension.
Break it down for us.
First, you need the soil biome. A single teaspoon of healthy soil contains more microorganisms than there are humans on Earth.
Wait, really? Just a teaspoon?
Just a teaspoon. You have these mycorrhizal fungi forming massive underground networks, physically attaching to the roots of the rice plant.
And what do?
They act as a secondary root system. They mine phosphorus and nitrogen from the soil and trade it to the plant in exchange for the carbon the plant produces through photosynthesis.
They are running a subterranean stock exchange just to keep that plant alive.
Yes, and that's just the soil. Photosynthesis requires the radiant energy of a star.
The sun.
The sun is a nuclear fusion reactor, 93 million miles away, converting millions of tons of matter into energy every second.
And those photons travel across the absolute vacuum of space.
They penetrate our atmosphere, which is specifically thick enough to burn up meteors, but transparent enough to let the right spectrum of light through.
And they hit the chlorophyll in the plant's leaves.
And we haven't even mentioned the water cycle.
Oh, right. Evaporation over the oceans, driven by that same solar energy.
Forming clouds that are carried by global wind currents dictated by the Earth's rotation.
Eventually dropping fresh water onto that specific field.
Plus the thousands of years of human intervention. Generations of farmers selectively breeding seeds, understanding the seasons, developing irrigation.
So that single grain of rice is the nexus point of the sun, the oceans, the microbial underworld, and human history.
It's the ultimate cosmic supply chain.
Now, let's map this onto the human experience, specifically the epidemic of loneliness.
This is where it gets really applicable to daily life.
Right, because we have an entire culture built around the self-made individual. the lone
Oh,
wolf.
the grind set.
Exactly. But if you trace the supply chain of your own existence, being self-made is biologically and physically impossible.
It is the grandest illusion of modern society.
Think about it. You might be sitting in a dark room right now feeling completely isolated. You might feel totally alienated from society.
But the simple, undeniable fact that you're sitting there breathing means that your cells are burning ATP for energy.
And that energy comes from the food you ate, which was grown by that massive cosmic supply chain.
The oxygen you are breathing is the exhaust gas of millions of ocean phytoplankton and terrestrial forests.
The feeling of isolation is a psychological construct. It is real in your mind, but it is a biological fiction.
You cannot exist outside of the web.
The planet, the weather systems, the microscopic fungi, the star at the center of our solar system, they are all constantly actively conspiring to sustain your physical form.
Conspiring to keep you alive.
You are fundamentally woven into the fabric of the biosphere, and I think realizing that changes the very nature of taking a breath or eating a meal.
You aren't just consuming calories, you are internalizing the earth.
Which naturally leads us to how we internalize not just space, but time.
Because this interconnectedness isn't just spatial. It is deeply chronological.
Right. We are physically connected to the earth beneath our feet through the food we eat, but how are we connected to the past?
To understand that, we have to look back up.
Not just at space, but at time itself. And there is a very specific liminal space that perfectly illustrates this: twilight.
Twilight is a phenomenal transition zone.
It's the boundary time.
Yeah, it's that brief window where the sky is still pale orange or deep purple from the sun dipping below the horizon,
Yeah.
but the first magnitude stars are just becoming visible.
And it profoundly dissolves our normal, rigid sense of time.
It really does. To understand why, we have to talk about the physics of light, specifically how starlight is literally ancient history.
Light is a time machine. I love this concept.
Me too.
Explain the mechanics of this because it breaks the brain in the best way possible.
Well, light has a finite speed limit. It is incredibly fast, but it is not instantaneous.
So it takes time to get from point A to point B.
Exactly. When you look at your hand, you are seeing it as it was a fraction of a nanosecond ago.
Okay, that's trippy.
When you look at the moon, you are seeing it as it was 1.3 seconds ago.
And the sun.
The sun as it was 8 minutes ago.
So you are never actually seeing the present moment. You are always looking into the past.
Never. Now scale that up to the stars. The closest star system to us, Alpha Centauri, is about 4.3 light years away.
So when you look at it, you are seeing light that left that star over 4 years ago.
Right. But most of the stars you see with the naked eye are hundreds or thousands of light years away.
Like Sirius or Rigel?
Yeah, Sirius is 8.6 light years. Rigel is over 800 light years away.
Wow.
And the Andromeda Galaxy, which you can actually see as a faint smudge on a really dark night, is 2.5 million light years away.
Wait, 2.5 million?
2.5 million years.
So when you look at Andromeda, the photons physically hitting your retina right now, triggering an electrical impulse in your optic nerve, they began their journey 2.5 million years ago.
Homo sapiens didn't even exist yet.
That is just wow.
Those specific photons have been traveling through the freezing vacuum of deep space for 2.5 million years, completely undisturbed, and their journey ends specifically by interacting with the biology of your eye.
It's like receiving a postcard in the mail from someone who mailed it 1,000 years ago. You are holding it now, but the message is ancient.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And here is why this is so critical for our daily psychology.
Right. Why does this matter for a Tuesday?
Because we are a culture suffocated by clock time. We are obsessed with living in the moment, and our artificial timelines are incredibly compressed.
Oh, absolutely. You have a deadline tomorrow at 5 p.m. You have a quarterly review in 3 months. You have anxieties about next month's rent.
And if you deviate from those micro-timelines, society tells you that you are failing.
It induces sheer panic.
It does. But when you stand outside at twilight, your feet are planted in the immediate present. You feel the wind, you hear the crickets.
But your eyes are literally bathed in deep geological cosmic history.
You are standing in the present while being physically wrapped in a blanket of the past.
You are looking at a sky where multiple epochs of time are happening simultaneously.
You are seeing the Roman Empire, the Jurassic period, and the dawn of hominids all at once, just by glancing at different stars.
And when you force your brain to hold that reality, Your strict deadline for Friday suddenly feels a little less intimidating. It dilutes the intensity of our artificial panic.
It absolutely softens our rigid human timeline.
Now, I can hear the pushback on this. People will say, well, that's a great philosophical trick, but cosmic time doesn't pay my rent.
Right. Starlight doesn't finish the spreadsheet.
Exactly. Isn't this just sophisticated escapism?
It's a fair critique, but it misses the point of the exercise entirely. Escaping into cosmic time isn't running away from your problems.
What is it then?
It's returning to a more foundational, natural sense of time that human society has forced us to forget. It's about recalibrating your nervous system so you can actually handle those responsibilities without burning out.
Human clock-based time is the artificial construct.
Yes. The slow burn of stellar evolution, the orbital mechanics of the planets, that is the true foundational reality of the universe.
It's the baseline of reality.
That's exactly it. When you synchronize your mind with that baseline, even for 5 minutes, you lower your cortisol. You engage your parasympathetic nervous system.
You aren't ignoring the spreadsheet. You are just remembering that the spreadsheet exists within a universe that is ancient, slow, and completely indifferent to your productivity.
It is deeply grounding.
Okay, so we've established the staggering scale of the universe and deep time, making us feel incredibly small.
Very small.
But what if the apparatus you're using to comprehend that vastness is just as vast itself?
Now we turn the telescope around and look at the observer.
Yes, we move from the macrocosmos to the microcosmos of the human brain.
And the numbers here are just as staggering as the astronomy.
They really are. Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's look at the neurobiology.
The average human brain weighs about 3 pounds. But within that dense, wet tissue, there are approximately 86 billion neurons.
86 billion individual nerve cells.
Yes. And each of those neurons doesn't just sit there in isolation. They reach out and connect with other neurons through synapses.
Right.
A single neuron can have up to 10,000 synaptic connections. When you multiply that out, you get an estimated 100 trillion neural connections in a single human skull.
100 trillion. Let's pause and map that onto the cosmos. Earlier, we established that there are an estimated 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe.
Correct.
So inside the 3 pounds of tissue in my skull, there are roughly 50 times more connections than there are galaxies in the visible universe.
In terms of sheer network complexity, the combinatorics of your synapses, the inside of a single human skull rivals, or even exceeds the complexity of the observable universe.
That is insane.
Astrophysicists and neuroscientists have actually compared the structural maps of the universe's dark matter filaments with the neural networks in the brain, and the mathematical similarities in how they organize themselves are uncanny.
So the paradox is absolute.
It is the ultimate paradox in the source text.
At the exact moment you look up at the sky and feel incredibly small, the biological machinery allowing you to feel that way is as expansive and complex as the sky itself.
And this is not a poetic metaphor. It is a neurological and astrophysical reality.
We spend all this time looking outward for miracles, but the most complex structure we know of is the thing doing the looking.
It radically elevates human dignity. You are not just an insignificant speck on a pale blue dot.
You are a highly concentrated node of cosmic complexity.
The universe took 13.8 billion years of stellar death, planetary formation, and brutal evolutionary biology to build a structure capable of looking back at it.
It's like the universe folded in on itself and got incredibly dense right behind our eyes.
But with that kind of immense processing power comes a massive side effect.
Yeah, you don't run a 100 trillion connection supercomputer without generating some serious heat.
The heat, in this case, is consciousness, and specifically, the agony of self-awareness.
Which brings us to the core existential problem. We are the only creatures on this planet that use our immense brain power to ask one specific, agonizing question.
Why am I here?
Exactly. It is the burden of the observer.
Right. A cheetah is incredibly complex, but a cheetah does not lie awake at 3 a.m. wondering if its life has purpose.
Dogs, monkeys, fish, they don't question their reason for existing.
They hunt, they sleep, they reproduce. They simply exist. Humans, however, are cursed and blessed with the need for narrative. We need a why.
And this is where things get genuinely profound, crossing from neurobiology into quantum mechanics and philosophy. Why do we ask why?
Well, there's a deep thread in theoretical physics, particularly stemming from the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics regarding the role of the observer.
The observer effect. Explain how this actually works because it often gets hijacked by pseudoscience.
Let's look at the famous double-slit experiment. In quantum mechanics, particles like electrons or photons don't exist in a single defined state until they are measured.
They exist as a wave of probabilities.
A superposition, yes. But the exact moment a measurement is taken, the moment information is extracted by an observer, the wave function collapses, and the particle snaps into a definite reality.
So reality itself, at the most fundamental subatomic level, remains fuzzy and undefined until something interacts with it and observes it.
Precisely. John Archibald Wheeler, a legendary theoretical physicist, proposed what he called the participatory anthropic principle.
And what does that mean?
He suggested that the universe is a self-excited circuit. It requires conscious observers to retroactively collapse its quantum states and give it actualized meaning.
Wait, so the universe isn't just sitting there waiting for us to figure it out. The universe actually needs us to look at it.
According to this philosophical interpretation of physics, yes.
That's wild.
Remember the pale blue dot? We are made of carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and iron. Those elements were forged in the cores of dying stars. We are quite literally stardust.
Therefore, human consciousness is not something separate from the universe. We are the universe.
Exactly. We are the universe developing eyes, optic nerves, and a cerebral cortex so it can finally see itself.
When you look at a star, it is the universe observing itself.
And when humans look at the stars and ask, why am I here? It is actually the universe interrogating its own existence.
I want the listener to really sit with the implications of this. Think about the freedom in that idea.
It completely obliterates the concept of an existential crisis.
It does. We usually view our existential crises as a flaw, a bug in our programming.
We think, if I haven't cured a disease or become a CEO or found my passion, my life is meaningless.
We think the crisis means we are failing. But if you view it through the lens of the observer, the crisis is the point.
The source text concludes that for the question, what is the purpose of life? The answer is the act of asking is the answer.
The fact that you have the capacity to stand in the dark and wonder about your cosmic destiny means you are actively fulfilling your cosmic function.
You don't need a grand destiny.
You are providing the universe with conscious observation. You don't need to earn your meaning through capitalism or legacy. Your sheer conscious presence is the mechanism that gives the cosmos meaning.
It is a profound liberation from the pressure of becoming. You are already fundamentally necessary just by being.
But this naturally raises a massive, unavoidable problem.
Of course.
If our highest function is to simply be the conscious observers of the universe, we have to reckon with what we are actually observing, because the universe isn't just beautiful nebulae and swaying rice fields. It is brutal.
It is entirely governed by entropy, decay, and death, and we have to confront the cruel beauty of that cycle.
Yeah, we can't do a deep dive on existence without talking about the engine of existence, which is death.
It's the ultimate, undeniable rule of nature.
We touched on entropy earlier with the ruins, but how does it apply to biology?
Biology fundamentally relies on destruction to function. The classic metaphor in Eastern philosophy is the cherry blossom.
Right.
It is deeply revered, not just because it is pretty, but precisely because it falls at the peak of its bloom. Its aesthetic value is inextricably tied to its impermanence.
But again, this isn't just poetry, it's cellular mechanics.
It is. Let's look at apoptosis. This is programmed cell death.
Apoptosis.
Yes. Within almost every cell in your body, there's a mechanism designed to kill the cell when it becomes old, damaged, or unnecessary.
How does a cell know to kill itself?
It's a highly orchestrated chemical suicide. When a cell receives the signal, mitochondria release a protein called cytochrome C. This activates a cascade of enzymes called caspase, which act like molecular scissors.
Wow. Molecular scissors.
They literally chop up the cell's DNA and structural proteins from the inside out. Cell shrinks, breaks into neat little packages, and is consumed by white blood cells.
It meticulously dismantles itself. Old cells must die for new ones to be born.
And if this death process fails, the cells continue to mutate and divide uncontrollably. That is what cancer is. Cancer is the failure of biological death. Survival on a cellular level requires constant microscopic death.
We look at death as a system failure, but biologically, it's the operating system updating.
That's a very modern way to think about it.
Right. To use a tech analogy, you have to delete the old bloated files to make room for the new software. It feels harsh, but without it, the whole system crashes.
And scaling that up to the macro level, over Earth's 3.8 billion year history, evolution has relied entirely on death to drive life forward.
The only reason life has adapted and grown more complex is because older models died out.
Death is not an end. It is a mechanism of circulation. It keeps the biosphere from stagnating.
Objectively, intellectually, that makes perfect sense. But subjectively, It is agonizing.
Because, going back to consciousness, we are the universe's observers. And we don't just observe neutrally, we get attached.
We fall in love, we build families, we have memory.
We form incredibly deep neurochemically reinforced bonds with the people around us. Our brains chemically wire us to bond.
So when the inevitable biological cycle of death takes someone we love, it feels deeply cruel.
And it is cool from the perspective of the ego. But the synthesis we are exploring suggests that this grief is a feature of our biology, not a flaw in the universe.
You cannot have the profound joy of observing the universe without the agony of watching it change states. Beauty and cruelty share the exact same space.
A sunset is stunning precisely because it is fleeting. Life is precious because it ends.
If we lived forever, the vibrant, heartbreaking value of a single afternoon with a friend would just vanish.
The impermanence is the source of the value.
So the goal isn't to reach some detached state where you don't feel grief.
No, not at all. Discussing this cycle without despair means acknowledging that your sadness over passing time is just proof of your deep capacity to love the world you are observing.
Grief is just love with nowhere to go. It's proof you are awake for the experience.
Exactly.
And when you accept that you are part of this grand, unstoppable cycle, it fundamentally shifts how you view your daily survival.
Which brings us to what I think is the most radical, practical takeaway from this entire exploration.
The passive miracle of simply being kept alive.
This concept is the ultimate antidote to modern hyperproductivity.
Oh, the grind set culture again. We live in a society that pressures us to achieve, to be useful, to find meaning.
We are taught that if we aren't being productive, we are wasting space. It creates a baseline state of constant low-grade guilt.
But the source material destroys that notion. When we look at the physiology of the human body, that narrative completely falls apart.
Let's talk about what the body does when you're doing absolutely nothing.
Just sitting on the couch, staring at the wall, feeling like a total failure.
Even at complete rest, your body is performing miracles without your conscious input. Your autonomic nervous system is running a sprawling industrial complex.
Right, without a single conscious thought from you.
Your brainstem is regulating your heart, pumping about 2,000 gallons of blood through 60,000 miles of blood vessels every single day.
60,000 miles.
Your lungs pull in air continuously. Your liver is running over 500 simultaneous chemical processes. Your immune system is actively identifying and destroying mutated cells.
You are conducting a biological symphony.
The philosophical takeaway here is that there is a massive, relentless directionality inside you. Evolution, the universe, nature, whatever you want to call it, is screaming at a cellular level, keep this person existing.
And it does this completely independent of your effort or your perceived merit.
You do not have to earn your baseline existence. Your body is already doing the work.
You are inherently valuable just by functioning. I mean, think about this as a tool for burnout.
It's so powerful for that.
When you feel completely depleted, when a relationship ends or you fail at your job and you can't even get out of bed, you can fall back on the undeniable success of your autonomic nervous system.
You might have failed the social metric today, but biologically, you are an absolute triumph.
Your heart is beating. You are surviving. That is enough.
It's about stripping away the conditional value we place on ourselves and resting in the inherent unconditional value of simply being kept alive.
So how do we take all of this, the 93 billion light years, the silent ruins, the swaying rice, the complex brain, and the beating heart, and actually use it to live a better Tuesday?
Because the danger here is falling into toxic positivity. Changing your scale, remembering you are a speck in a void, doesn't magically invalidate your daily problem.
Exactly. A failure at work or a fight with a friend still causes real pain. If you hit your thumb with a hammer, knowing the Andromeda galaxy is out there doesn't stop the pain receptors.
The goal isn't to erase the micro-reality. The goal is to learn how to hold two truths at once.
You have to be able to look at your life and say, this hurts right now in my reality. And simultaneously recognize, on a cosmic scale, this is a tiny ripple.
The contradiction is the point. When you hold both truths, you create space in your mind.
Space.
Yes. The space created in your mind by holding both the micro pain and the macro piece. It makes life quieter. You are allowed to cry over today's pain while looking at the night sky.
And we can apply the metaphor of the ruins directly to the self here. When you feel totally burned out, exhausted, and ruined, remember that total destruction is a myth.
Because of entropy and regeneration. Even in the most devastated ruins, wind blows through the cracks, bugs crawl, and seeds sprout.
No place and no person is ever completely dead or finished. As long as there is a crack for the wind to pass through, regeneration is already beginning.
You are allowed to let things fall apart.
You don't have to choose between being a stressed out human and a detached cosmic philosopher. You get to be both. You can be the universe experiencing a really bad day at the office.
The ultimate comfort is finding the breeze in the ruins of our own lives, allowing ourselves to fail, knowing the Earth's cycles will sprout something new from that failure.
What an incredible place to land. Let's quickly trace the arc of the journey we took today. We started by zooming all the way out, standing in the pale blue light of an expanding 93 billion light-year bubble.
Realizing that our absolute insignificance is a relief.
We looked at silent ruins, learning that the end of human effort is a peaceful surrender. We looked at the swaying rice fields, uncovering the massive biological web that proves true isolation is impossible.
We stood in the twilight, allowing cosmic time to dilute our artificial panic.
We turned the lens inward, discovering our brains are as complex as the galaxies, making us concentrated nodes of the cosmos.
We confronted the necessity of death, realizing our grief is the cost of being the observer.
And finally, we found grace in the simple rhythm of our own heartbeat, proving our inherent worth.
It is a profound toolkit for living.
It really is. And as we close out, I want to leave you with one final thought to explore on your own. It builds on this idea of being the universe's observer. We talked about how asking why gives the universe meaning and how grief is a feature. But flip that around. If your consciousness is literally the universe's way of experiencing itself, then your joy is a cosmic event.
Oh, I love that.
When you laugh so hard you can't breathe, when you taste a perfect piece of fruit, that is the 13.8 billion year old universe finally getting to experience joy. You are its sensory organs. Tonight, if you can, go outside and look at the night sky. Remember that the light you are seeing is ancient, but the eyes doing the looking are the most complex things the universe has ever produced. When you look at the stars are finally getting a chance to see themselves. What do you want to show them?
Thank you for taking this deep dive with us. We'll see you next time.